Terraria is an incredible game filled with endless hours of exploration, an intuitive gameplay loop, and beautiful biomes. Nah, let's beat the game from this island in the middle of the sky instead. Hello everybody, my name is Woot7 and welcome back to another Terraria video. You see, in Terraria's Bigger and Boulder update, they added an official Skyblock seed, as in like Minecraft Skyblock, but Terraria. Of course, my goal was to beat the Moonlord, starting from absolutely nothing, which was infinitely easier said than done. Like, seriously, this was a painful experience. Before we get into it, if you end up enjoying the video, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 50k this year, and any help would go a really long way. I know, I don't usually ask for that long, but 1% of my viewers are subscribed, so like, let's change that. Anyway, without further ado, I spent 100 days in Terraria Skyblock, and this is what happened. On day 1, after checking out some of the new customization that came with the update, I landed on making Hatsune Miku. Then, I selected Skyblock on the new Secret Seed menu and generated my world. I loaded into this barren island in the middle of the sky, with no blocks other than dirt and clouds to work with. Things were peaceful. Confusing, but peaceful. What was I supposed to do now? But before I could finish that thought, a slime rain started. All of a sudden, the island wasn't lonely at all, and rapidly filling up with enemies. So, to not instantly die, I dug a hole into the ground. Safety was one thing though, I had to fight back, right? So I tried, and got destroyed. On respawning, I tried building up to keep the slimes away from me so I could collect my thoughts. But suddenly, the slime sniped me off the pillar, knocking me off into the horde. Okay, that was... what? You may be thinking, oh, this doesn't seem like an ideal way to start a playthrough. Well, quite the opposite. Slimes were dropping acorns, so I was able to plant some trees. As well as that, the new update added slime-based weapons crafted with 50 gel each, and as I was thankfully spawned in with the solidifier on the island, I was able to craft the new slime spear nice and quickly. This bad boy was the answer to all of my issues at that moment, mowing down the hordes of enemies easily. I checked my inventory afterwards and realized I now had an abundance of grass seeds, ores, and torches, thanks to all of the slimes I'd taken out. This was very promising. By the morning of day 2, I had finished my first house, but I was surprised to see that the merchant moved in before the guide. I interacted with him to check his new portrait, which is a new feature that came with the update. Very handsome. I created a few more houses so more NPCs could move in, and after that was finished, I encountered a cloud slime. This will be a recurring theme in Skyblock when it comes to getting resources, with countless more new block-related slimes coming up. I forgot to check the guide's portrait earlier as well, so when I did today, they did him dirty. Checking for recipes with the guide reminded me I needed to get a furnace pretty soon to smelt down the ores I've been collecting. But where am I gonna get stone from? If there's nothing in the world, it seems impossible. Anyway, I used some rope I acquired from slimes to head down to the underground layer, which to everyone's surprise had absolutely nothing going on. Before I built my own underground, I made some cloud platforms and headed to the left of my floating island to see if I could find something. A few moments later, I was jumped by some zombies though, so whatever, I didn't want to explore in the first place. I also decided to test just how empty the world was by jumping into the void and seeing if it truly had nothing in it. Sure enough, it was entirely empty, all the way down to the bottom of the world. On day 3, the traveling merchant visited, but had nothing of interest. I spent my morning mining some of the clouds off the island to make some platforms, and after some time, had a nice looking chunk taken out of the island. I made them into platforms and then continued my journey heading to the left of the world. While doing this, I managed to get a sickle drop from a zombie, meaning I could now collect hay from grass. Then I had a thought. If surface enemies spawn on platforms I build up in the sky, then wouldn't the same work for other biomes? So I went to the underground layer that night and built a platform with the newfound hay blocks. Sure enough, during building, I ran into dirt and stone slimes, each dropping their respective items on death. Well, that was convenient. I don't have to worry about stone anymore. That led me into day 4. With the stone I'd finally acquired, I made a furnace, meaning I could smelt all the ores I'd been accumulating all the while. Using all of my iron, I crafted a gravedigger's shovel, which specializes in mining dirt. With it, I cleared out most of the dirt under the surface of the island for extra blocks to use while bridging. Back to exploring out west, I used over 1,000 blocks but still hadn't found anything yet. Using 50 gel, I crafted the new slime whip, and while trying it out, I saw Pinky had spawned under me. A few seconds later, I'd secured myself 3 shiny gold coins and pink gel. I used the pink gel to make a cute little trampoline with, and used the gold to buy myself a piggy bank. On day 5, it was about time to make a couple chests, as the clutter in my inventory was starting to attract roaches. To the right of the island, I created a quick hay farm with some dirt blocks and platforms. Now it was time to head deeper into the caves, and one dirt platform with some torches later, cavern enemies was spawning. This was great progress, but I was being ripped apart left, right, and center due to my lack of gear. I also encountered a web slime for the first time, who rudely trapped me in place whilst I got jumped by all of the other monsters around me. Anyway, after boxing myself into safety, I spotted a slime with a new item from the update inside of it. I guess it was having a rough day though, because it jumped off the ledge and into the void right as I noticed it. Immediately after, a heart slime appeared, which drops life crystals. Finally, I had my first health upgrade. During this, a granite slime appeared, and after opening my box a little to try and poke it through the wall, I found out the hard way that knockback doesn't apply to these things. Incredible. On day 6, the nurse arrived with a very charming portrait. Shortly after, the dye trader appeared, with an underwhelming portrait in my opinion. I made a couple more houses out of hay and wood, then using some of the ores I had, I crafted a watch. This will be really important for this challenge, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to track the day-night cycle while underground. I also took the time to create a tungsten bow and some arrows. After heading back up, I found it was raining, which was super important, now that because of this, I had access to water. This is done by throwing a bucket out into the rain, which after a couple seconds will fill up. It was thundering too, which caused lightning to zap nearby trees every so often, which tragically ended with me getting caught up in the crossfire. Whilst I was trying to create infinite water on day 7, an Abigail's flower spawned next to the graves I had on the side of the island. This was an amazing summon to find this early, which would prove to serve me well going forward. In other news, my favorite NPC and low commitment situationship, the zoologist, also moved in, and I was thrilled to see her new portrait captured her likeness very well. Afterward, with dirt, I crafted mud and started creating an artificial jungle biome underground using the jungle seeds I'd collected from slimes earlier. While I let that spread, I farmed in the caverns, and it was painful. I got beat up, turned to stone, and even worse, shot by a dart trap. Because yes, in Skyblock, apparently slimes can carry dart traps. This sealed my fate, in which the 6 gold I had was robbed and thrown off the map. I bought a bug net on day 8 and started gathering worms for fishing, a feature I've unironically never tried out in all of my years of playing this game. I made my worms into enchanted night crawlers with some of the fallen stars I'd collected, and after expanding my island pond a bunch more, it was time to fish. I reeled in a wooden crate almost immediately, pulling sailfish boots alongside some more bait. Sailfish boots are just reskinned Hermes boots, so I really couldn't have asked for a better drop. The demolitionist also moved in today. Wow. On day 9, I was introduced to a new feature where birds can poop on you. Yep, it even does damage to players. What is Terraria even about? A minute or two later, something else was falling from the sky. That being a second slime rain. This was huge, meaning I could farm up some more gel and ores super efficiently. I spent most of the day doing just that until the king slime decided to show up. Safe to say, I was heavily underprepared, and with little to no arena, I got absolutely destroyed. Once the rain had passed, I filled my pond a little more and upgraded my fishing pole to a reinforced pole. Day 10 marked the traveling merchant's second arrival, this time selling the katana. Jumping from slime weapons to this was an enormous upgrade. I also bought the DPS meter, which will be handy later on for crafting a certain item. I decided to dedicate the rest of the day to fishing just to see what I could get. Lo and behold, fishing was incredibly lucrative. I got my hands on the balloon pufferfish, an accessory that increases jump height and jump speed, as well as the falcon blade, a melee weapon I'd never seen before. This was already an upgrade to the katana. Things were just moving so fast here. I also got some gravity potions from crates, which I used to explore the left side of the world further. This actually resulted in my theory of other islands being correct, and finding the shimmer. The shimmer was heavily important for Skyblock, allowing the transmutation of certain items into their counterparts, or breaking them down entirely into materials. On day 11, I brought some items to the shimmer to see what I could get. The most notable being shimmering a water bucket into a lava bucket, and shimmering assorted buff potions I had into water bottles, which when shimmered down 2 more times, turned into sand. Hypothetically, this meant that if I got enough potions, I could have a desert biome. But this was way too far of a goal to chase right now, so I headed back home and checked in on how the jungle was spreading, which was doing well, but no enemies were spawning yet. I headed down to the caves to farm for some more life crystals and actually ran into a mimic, which weirdly enough dropped a mace. This taught me that mimics are the replacement for golden chests in pre-hard mode, meaning that they'd be very important to farm. I did eventually find a heart slime, increasing my health, and got the old companion locket, a new vanity item that changed the sounds my character made when hurt to this retro sounding thing. That night was a blood moon, so I ran around for a while taking out blood zombies, then fished for a bit to see if I could pull up one of the blood moon exclusive enemies. That I did, which I wasn't properly prepared for, leading to a swift demise. On day 12, I decided to do some more fishing, and the very first thing I got was a tsunami in a bottle, boosting my mobility even more. Soon after, I got a second one and another pair of sailfish boots later that day. Afterward, I went back down to the jungle with still no jungle enemies spawning. I think it was due to these 2 stone blocks I'd left behind, because not even a few seconds after breaking them, some hornets spawned. I didn't realize biomes were so finicky. On day 13, the skeleton merchant appeared for the first time. There was a mimic bullying him though that I had to punish, who dropped a band of regen. A pretty good accessory to have, considering I had nothing better to use. Anyway, the skeleton merchant had the best portrait I'd seen so far, and as for his wares, the artisan loaf he sold increased my interaction range with crafting stations, as well as some roller skates. These are new, and while I thought at first that these would be a joke item, I found that they're actually ridiculously good. Look at how fast I can go around the cave. This is insane. Another mimic showed up after and dropped the magic mirror, which is always a blessing to find early on. On the surface, I noticed an abundance of ladybugs, which made for some pretty good bait. Then I went back down to the caves and started making a mob farm area with some slime blocks. On the start of day 14, Stream Chat recommended that I create a hoplite farm by placing down the marble blocks I got from the slimes underground. For you see, hoplites have a chance to drop gladiator armor, which is better than platinum and seemed like less of a grind. What? Gladius? I got a weapon? Yo. It's godly. This probably has the same drop chance as the armor pieces, and I got this instead. On day 15, I kinda just waited around talking to chat, as I kept hitting lucky drops time and time again. I got a full set of gladiator armor and then some to sell for cash, and afterward fished for a bit to hopefully find some more potions. Day 16 is when I realized fishing in the underground jungle is super powerful, so I made a pond to fish in. The drop I was looking for were jungle crates, which always have an item inside typically found in ivy chests. This took a while because they're not very common. From that item pool, the drops I was looking for were potions to shimmer into glass, anklet of the wind, the aglet, and boomstick, as all of them would speed up progression substantially. As the sun rose on day 17, I decided to head over to the shimmer and continue the process of shimmering my potions down to glass bottles, to shimmer into glass, to shimmer into sand. One of the materials I got during this process was tattered cloth, used to create the goblin battle standard. However, by the time I had enough cloth to make it, I found I couldn't use it. The Eye of Cthulhu hadn't been defeated yet, so I assumed that was the reason why. But it was actually because I didn't yet have 200 HP. It really hurts looking back because immediately afterwards I found enough life crystals to reach that amount. Secondly, it also meant that the Eye of Cthulhu would now have a 1 in 3 chance to spawn every night. The majority of days 18 to 19 were spent farming life crystals in preparation for whenever the eye decided to spawn. Occasionally, as I farmed, I'd stumble onto some of the new voice changing items and new gold animals that came with the update. By day 20, I was only 2 life crystals away from max, so I tried farming for magic mirrors dropped by mimics. These can be shimmered into both diamonds and glass, which of course are going to be very important. The skeleton merchant also dropped in, selling the aglet, an item we needed for the lightning boots, and of course eventually the terror sparks. On day 21, I finally reached max health. Oh. The only other thing of note I did was shimmer and recraft my bow several times to try and get a better reforge. Day 22 started with a slime rain, meaning our first beatable boss of the run was finally here. Granted, it's only expert mode, so King Slime was no match for my overprepared max HP and arena. The drops were nothing of note, other than the slime gun flavor text being different now. After the King Slime, I tried using the Goblin Battle Standard again, which, surprise surprise, worked, and the Goblin Invasion was light work. Afterward, this meant I could now find and unbind the Goblin Tinkerer, allowing me to combine my accessories and reforge whatever else I wanted. I spent day 23 upgrading a lot of stuff. The biggest mentions would be the Sharkron balloon, lightning boots, and reforging my sword into legendary with this sick new animation and sound effect. Oh! I also reforged Abigail into the new summer exclusive reforge, Fabled. On looking in the crafting menu, I discovered the update's new bikini vanity and started the process of creating a small desert biome using my sand. Why? Well, I assumed this would mean an antlion would spawn. These things shoot out an infinite amount of sand towards the player as their attack, so this would be an invaluable farm, but only vultures spawned. Day 24 starts with a painter arriving, who is kinda ugly. After realizing I needed more housing, I put my extreme building skills to work and put put together some luxurious homes for my NPCs. On day 25, I killed a Pinky, which dropped a slime staff. This is already really unlikely, but seconds later, a flying fish came over and dropped a rain song. I guess because of how rare it was, I got a Steam achievement for it. I bought and placed the forest pylon as well, which coincidentally had the new Lucky Clover item drop once I placed it down. It boosts luck while in your inventory. To wrap up the day, I went to the Shimmer and built some houses. Shimmered a second forest pylon into an aether pylon, meaning I could instantly travel between the two islands from now on. Day 26 and 27 were not fun. I decided to do something I'd been putting off for a while now, which was creating an ocean biome so that the angler could spawn. The process of creating an entire ocean took the entirety of both days 26 and 27. Over 40 minutes of sitting still, pouring water. Eventually though, the job was done. Oh, I'm actually gonna cry. That took so long. I did my first fishing quest for the angler and did some more jungle fishing, even getting the bone pickaxe dropped as a cute little bonus for my hard work. What? I grabbed my second fishing quest right away on day 28, which required me to create another new fishing pond. In the middle of doing this, however, the little green text I'd been waiting for had just popped up. It was finally time for the Eye of Cthulhu. I was incredibly overprepared, and by the end of the battle, barely took even 2 hearts of damage. Funnily enough, the eye dropped a demon altar, which opens up the path to crafting boss summons. I finished off the day completing the angler quest and achieving the good little slave achievement. On day 29, I jumped to upgrade my fishing rod into the Fisher of Souls. You know, as fishing is gonna be extremely crucial for this run. Shortly after, the Dryad spawned, selling me planter boxes, which will come in handy later, and also earning me the 100% purified achievement. I'm not sure if this cheese was intentional, but you heard it here first. Using the corruption seeds I attained from the eye, it was time to start creating my corruption biome for the Eater of Worlds. I made a really scuffed area of dirt, planted the corrupt seeds, and let it spread for a while I did my angler quest. And by a while, I mean all throughout day 30. After the corruption spread from day 30, day 31 marked my first attempt at the Eater of Worlds. Utilizing a comical amount of spiky balls from the Goblin army, as well as the tankiness my armor afforded me, I ended up absolutely dog-walking the Eater. I was yet again heavily overprepared for this fight. After beating it, I realized I didn't have enough shadow scales to create a full set of shadow armor though, so I prepared to fight it again. However, on returning to the corruption, I'd noticed that a lot of my spiky balls had despawned. I thought this meant I was cooked, but found out very quickly that I was still tanky enough to use my falcon blade instead. Now that I had the shadow scales I needed, I made a full set of shadow armor, and I also crafted myself a demon bow, which I reforged to Unreal. More importantly though, the Eater dropped hundreds of dungeon bricks and walls, so that Chippy Gaming could spawn. I mean, the old man. So once he'd spawned in, I said screw it. The Eater was super easy, so this will be a walk in the park, right? However, I realized mid-fight that I needed more demonic arrows since I was running out already. And well, because I'm a professional gamer, I crafted them mid-fight, whilst barely taking any damage. The attempt was going great. Until a meteor shower started. These are new in version 1.4.5, where chunks of meteor fall down from the sky, able to hurt both enemies and the player. And after getting Skeletron really low, I got overwhelmed. After this devastating loss, I decided to go around and farm the falling meteors, as at very least, they dropped meteorite ore. On day 32, I realized I still didn't have the arms dealer, so I tried killing the painter a few times, as he has a 10% chance to drop the paintball gun on death. I hoped this would count as a gun, therefore meeting the arms dealer's condition to move in, but he didn't end up dropping it in the first place. So I gave up and decided to do some more jungle fishing afterward, continuing the grind for the elusive jungle crate. But later that day, I gave the painter one last chance to redeem himself, ending up with him actually dropping the paintball gun. Hopefully the arms dealer would move in soon. I headed back to the corruption on day 33 and started farming worm teeth to craft into unholy arrows. During this, I stumbled into the Tavern Keep, a new NPC, gaining myself ale in the process as well as access to the Old One's army. Turning in the fishing quest today granted me the Fuzzy Carrot, a guaranteed drop signifying 5 fishing quests down. There are plenty more guaranteed drops down the line, but as I'd never got this before, it was certainly a nice surprise. Using the rubies I got from shimmering diamonds from the magic mirror, I crafted a ruby gemcorn and went underground to plant it. If you didn't know, gemcorns are basically trees made of stone, which may drop gems associated with the seed they come from. However, it isn't guaranteed, so I was taking a slight risk. Without it dropping another gemcorn or more rubies, I'd be out of gems for the foreseeable future. As night fell, it was time for me to punish Skeletron for disrespecting me the previous night. And without a meteor shower stopping me, he was light work. Unique to the Skyblock seed, Skeletron dropped the Hellforge, a crafting station that'll be useful later on. On day 34, I used the colored dungeon brick from Skeletron's bag to create a man-made dungeon biome to start farming drops from dungeon enemies. While doing this, I got the new cat collar item, which I equipped. Moving on. After placing various walls that I didn't know the functional difference between at the time, dungeon enemies started spawning, with a mechanic soon after. After freeing her, I decided to spend a small fortune on planter boxes for the cross-world platform in Hell for the Wall of Flesh fight. The enemies in Hell gave me a run for my money, almost killing me numerous times. But to counter this, I ended up creating meteor armor and the space gun. I also remembered I could shimmer a life crystal into a vital crystal, boosting my health regeneration permanently. The space gun was amazing to fight off enemies in Hell on day 35. And this is when I discovered that magma slimes drop Hellstone. During this, I also managed to get myself an obsidian rose, a magma charm, and the demon scythe book. I shimmered my magma charm into a lava charm, another important piece towards the Terra Spark boots. Then, because I was getting kind of bored building the Hell Bridge, I decided to take an attempt at the Wall of Flesh early. Now, chat was telling me that it was gonna bug out without a roof, and that the fight wouldn't work. But whatever, they can't tell me what to do, so I did it anyway, and it ended up being just fine. The fight was going fine as well, but that is until I ran out of bridge. However, I had a plan B. Using some spare gravitation potions I had on me, I reversed gravity to try and last against the wall for just a little bit longer. I was close, but sadly didn't win this time around. I also rounded out the day by harvesting the drops from my gemcorn tree, which thankfully dropped more seeds. On day 36, I extended the Hell Bridge to the left, all the way up until where the last fight had ended. After creating a small lava pool, I summoned the boss again, in hopes I had enough bridge this time to beat it. That I certainly did. After defeating the wall and barely taking any damage, it was finally time to enter hard mode. My drops from the bag were the warrior emblem and firecracker, as well as the ever useful pwn hammer and demon heart. I then hung around the new hard mode dungeon for a little, but before grinding that out, I found that the dryad sold hollowed seeds, meaning it was time to start creating our very own hollowed biome. During this process, I realized just how insane the HP jump was with normal enemies. I let the hollow spread and took to the skies to try and get a giant harpy feather and have a wyvern spawn so I could get my first pair of wings. The wyvern spawned really quickly and did a lot of damage, but I still took it out, getting several souls of flight in the process. Later that night, I finally found a giant harpy feather, meaning it was time to craft my first set of wings, right? I quickly realized I needed a hard mode anvil to make wings on day 37, so I crafted some gemcorns, went back down to the caves, and prepared to figure out how to attain hard mode ores. On the way down though, a mithril slime appeared, making it crystal clear on how I'd be attaining these ores in question. Shortly after, I got a beam sword, a melee weapon I'd never even seen before, yet I grew very fond of using it. While I was farming slimes for ore, the wizard spawned, which had one of the coolest portraits yet. Whilst farming, I realized the hard mode ore slimes are fully immune to lava, meaning I would have to manually go around and beat them up myself. I took this opportunity to check on the hard mode jungle, and realized I was not prepared for the enemies that spawned. Back at the mob farm, a blood moon suddenly appeared. I tried creating an area near the hollow to farm hollowed enemies, and also blood zombies at the same time, but unfortunately spawns don't really work that way, so I wasted my time. At the final hour of the night whilst fishing for anything unique I could find, this happened. Oh, that's the quest. That's the quest for today. Please, 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 please. Come on! After being humiliated during the blood moon of day 37, day 38 I spent fishing for hard mode crates. The only thing of note I got from these was the enchanted sundial, allowing me to skip days if I so wished. Also, after remembering about the philosopher's stone I got earlier from a mimic, I crafted the charm of myths to boost my health regen further. The entire rest of the day was spent farming enemies in the hollow, getting most droppable accessories, a mechanical eye, and rounding out the day with the blessed apple, one of the fastest mounts in the game. The truffle decided to visit town on day 39, and let's just say I was not impressed with his portrait. The angler quest today required a sky lake, so I decided to get my head in the clouds to create one. This process took up most of the day, not because the building was difficult, but because of the wyverns spawning and destroying me every minute or so. After catching the quest fish, I headed down to the gemcorns I'd previously planted and reaped the benefits of long-term investment. I also wanted the slimy saddle and slime hook, so using the excess rubies I had, summoned the king slime again. Then I finished the day with a little treat, reforging my beam sword to legendary. Now 40% through the playthrough on day 40, whilst farming drops in the caverns, I obtained Marrow, a bow I hadn't ever seen before. This thing was disgustingly good, being almost hit scan with how fast the arrows flew. After getting some more mimic drops and very much losing track of time, I dropped a whole 2 platinum coins on death. I had also farmed some of the hard mode ores, but didn't have enough to make anything of interest yet. I went to the shimmer to try and convert some of the ores, when all of a sudden I was hit with another blood moon. But this time I properly set up an area to fish, and the very first thing I fished up was the Dread Nautilus. Run, 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 run. I don't even know. I've never fought this before. Where is he? Bro, where is he? There he is. Oh my God. Oh my god, yo! After going down to the wire, I reigned victorious. Well, technically, as I died immediately after it went down, but that's a minor detail. On respawn, I killed a zombie merman and got some rare blood moon drops as well. They weren't particularly useful to me, but the sense of victory was absolutely there. And then I died to a clown to wrap it all up. On day 41, a lot of my NPCs were dead. I built a little trophy room to hang up the spoils of war against the blood moon, hanging the bow and summon I got from the merman. I reforged my bow into Unreal and headed down into hell for a magma stone to upgrade my quiver. Albeit the insanely low chances, I got one very quickly, and even found the tax collector NPC. After crafting the molten quiver, I quickly realized it doesn't work with the marrow, as it automatically converts wooden arrows into bone arrows. But to cheer myself up, I did some building. I went to the ocean and began fishing for the chance of getting seaside crates, which then had a chance for water walking boots, one of the last ingredients I needed for the Terraspark boots. Sadly, the one seaside crate I got today did not contain the boots, meaning I'd have to spend many days in future trying my luck again. The fishing quest on day 42 was a Skylake fish again, and after heading up, I was instantly met with a wyvern. Every time I'd take one down, another took its spot, so I decided to run and see what the traveling merchant had to offer instead, who had the upgraded fishing pole I was praying he would have. The Sitting Duck's fishing pole has the third highest fishing power in the whole game, vastly outclassing everything else before it, so this was so incredibly welcome to have. The rest of this day was spent fishing in the ocean for the boots I needed, which I still didn't get, but instead got the stupid turtle mount I had never used or seen before. At least this random enemy dropped the pirate map, which is used to summon the pirate invasion. Having nothing better to do, I spawned them in, which was a little confronting at first. These guys are not weak and were tricky to get used to fighting. After clearing through 70% of the pirates by the morning of day 43, my first Flying Dutchman spawned. As a bit of a smarty pants myself, I found a very simple way to cheese the mini-boss, utilizing the way my houses were built to my advantage. The second Dutchman actually dropped the new Dead Cells collab weapon, the barrel launcher. It's a ranged energy cannon with a huge area of effect, meaning it was perfect for clearing events like this. After the event had ended, I spent almost 5 platinum reforging this new weapon. And I didn't even get Unreal on it, so I just sucked up the reforge I got anyway. Sadly, my angler quest today was the pixie fish, meaning I had to go create another lake to fish in, this time in the hollowed biome. I spent all day here getting little to nothing until I got a hollowed crate. It contained not only crystal shards, but also souls of light. This was huge, opening access to a whole new line of crafting recipes. On day 44, I finally had enough mithril to make the hard mode anvil. This meant I could also craft the titanium forge and crafted the harpy wings I'd got the materials for days prior. For my first armor upgrade of hard mode, I decided upon the ranger set of adamantite. You know, so I could use the new barrel launcher to its full effect. Although I couldn't afford the full set by missing out on the leggings, it was already a huge improvement to shadow armor. Otherwise, the rest of the day was spent fishing in the hollow for more souls of light. Day 45 was mostly spent farming for souls of light in the hollowed biome via fishing. Like in every Terraria playthrough, the souls are always really important in hard mode, so I had to stock up. Once night struck, another blood moon occurred, which had me fishing up this ugly shark guy accidentally. He beat me up really bad. Hopefully I can get revenge soon. I created some housing in my ocean biome on day 46. This was for the ocean pylon because it was getting repetitive having to make the commute from spawn to the edge of the world every time. After doing a little bit more fishing, my NPCs had moved into their new homes, granting me the shiny blue pylon. Today's angler quest was up in the sky again, my least favorite. Eventually I got the fish though. I bought the cavern pylon from the painter as well, and then finally reforged my barrel launcher into Unreal. On day 47, I farmed up some adamantite, eventually getting enough for my hard mode set of armor. Graduating from my now worn out piece of shadow armor, I completed the adamantite set I'd been putting off and got a 25% chance to not consume ammo as the set bonus. I spent the rest of the day down in the corruption farming for the ever so valuable souls of night. During this process and right before the next day, I managed to score not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 vitamins back to back to back. Yo. What? 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 Four in a row? What? While this isn't necessarily the most useful item, the odds for this to occur are ridiculous. In fact, I want to talk about just how insane this luck was. Although I did have the lucky clover on, it only provides a 0.03 bonus to luck, which is rather negligible. Granted, there's a 2% chance for vitamins to drop in expert mode. This meant for 4 in a row, I had hit a 1 in 6,250,000 chance for this to happen. For vitamins. What am I gonna do with these? All of my luck for the rest of the year used up in an instant over an accessory I only needed one of anyway. On day 48, after farming a couple more Souls of Night, I decided to direct my grind to the Ankh Charm. The Ankh Charm wasn't exactly necessary to progression, but I wanted to start planning out more side quests to pass time. And of course, to push the limits of item farming in Skyblock. Unbeknownst to me, I actually picked up a Bezoar earlier on. Regardless, I found a second one soon after, feeling a little silly on realizing my mistake, but accomplished nonetheless. I started day 49 with an angler quest, which coincidentally also happened to be in the underground corruption. Whilst building the fishing pond, I decided to also add marble blocks in on each side, so I could farm for the pocket mirror. This item drops from Medusas and grants immunity to the stone debuff. But Woot 7, why would you need such a niche accessory? For the Ankh Charm, of course. You should be asking yourself better questions, like whether you've checked the subscribe button or not. Actually, leave a comment with an ear emoji if you're hearing this. Like, just an ear. That'll weed out whoever's not paying attention. Anyway, it didn't take me long to get the quest fish and score myself a bonus in the form of monster meat. I moved the marble biome over and farmed for Medusas, eventually getting the pocket mirror. This was the final piece I needed for the Ankh Charm. I didn't yet have a cobalt shield though, so I couldn't craft the Ankh shield. That night, I decided it was finally time to take an attempt at a mechanical boss. Of course, the destroyer had to be first, since it was the easiest for my kit at that moment. Once it spawned though, I realized the odd nature of Skyblock made the fight a cakewalk, because most of his entire body spawned mid-air? I don't know if anyone else has run into this, but I could hit almost every segment at once with the barrel launcher. The fight barely even lasted a few seconds, and was so easy in fact, I beat it 3 more times after the first in quick succession. Afterward, I crafted myself a full set of hollowed armor from the bars I had accumulated, with the ranger helmet of course. I decided to take an attempt at the twins as well, since I still had some time to spare before sunrise. I got them to about half HP before realizing I was gonna need to change up my strategy. I was given a tip from chat that the hollowed repeater and cursed arrows are an incredibly good combo for the twins, so I went ahead and crafted them both. Day 50. Halfway through. Today, the steampunker moved in. Her portrait was my favorite of the update by far. I didn't realize Relogic could cook like this. She sold me the Clantaminator, a unique item that would give me the power to create or destroy biomes with ease. I also bought the jetpack, a solid wing upgrade. As night fell, I took an attempt at the twins again, however this time with a plan. My nurse is right above my spawn point, meaning I could magic mirror and cheese the fight. The first attempt was close, but sadly I didn't cheat fast enough. The second try, however, was done flawlessly. Then, as the twins fell, the sun rose on day 51. I started the day off with a quick angler quest down in the cavern layer. Thankfully, with my fishing pond already set up, it didn't take long to fish it up. Once I turned in the fish, I was presented with a minecarp as a reward, an underwater variation of the minecart. What kind of niche scenario would you even be using this in? I also found I could buy ice bombs from the demolitionist. When thrown on water, they turn to ice, which can be shimmered into snow, meaning I was finally able to start making a tundra biome. So I made a man-made underground tundra, granting myself access to drops from the ice biome. Night fell, and I took my first attempt at the last of the mech bosses, Skeletron Prime. In the middle of the fight, I really wanted to use the nurse cheese again, but this stupid nerd slime almost cost me my life not once, but twice, just getting in the way of the nurse. I eventually did defeat Skeletron Prime though. To round off the night, I nuked the corruption biome for the dirt I'd placed to craft into mud to help expand the jungle. Back in the underground jungle on day 52, I got my first life fruit. Now it was time to expand the jungle for Plantera. Speaking of, her bulb spawned right next to me right away. I didn't realize it was going to be this easy. The jungle expansion was going swimmingly. However, I realized a huge problem. Defeating the mechs didn't spawn any chlorophyte. That's surely not concerning? The angler quest today was in the underground tundra for the first time, and one quest fish later, I was rewarded with the angler vest. What's cool about this armor is that it boosts your fishing power, but additionally, in the 1.4.5 update, it was granted an upgraded set using Mithril. I'll show it later on. The entirety of day 53 was spent fishing for water walking boots. Did I get them? No. No, I did not. Day 54 to 55 was spent problem solving. Plantera enrages outside of the jungle, and considering there's so little of it here, I had to make it much, much bigger. But first, the angler quest of day 54 granted me the golden bug net, which allows the catching of lava critters. I also got myself the gummy worm, a permanent fishing power upgrade, by shimmering a gold worm that I randomly found on the floor. One of the ways I tried speeding up the jungle spread was by sleeping in a bed, which unfortunately did nothing. So, after much theory crafting, my second best best idea was to create an artificial glowing mushroom biome and move the dryad into it to buy the mushroom seeds that she'll sell. I'd then shimmer those seeds into jungle seeds and then use the contaminator to purify the mushroom biomes I made earlier into the jungle. After handing in the quest fish on day 56, my reward from the angler was a mermaid outfit? It was a weird gift for sure, but I put it on regardless to be kind. Next up, I was long overdue for a pickaxe upgrade. I mean, I was still using the pre-hard mode bone pickaxe. I crafted myself a pickaxe axe as a slight upgrade. On day 57, I was fishing in the ocean biome and got a seaside crate. But then I hit the jackpot, finally getting the water walking boots I'd spent hours fishing for. Oh, I was ecstatic. The rest of the day was spent in the tundra biome fishing for ice skates, the last item I needed for the elusive Terraspark boots. The quest fish on day 58 was the pixie fish, so one quick catch later I got myself the angler pants, another piece of fishing armor. By this point, I'd set up a second loadout exclusively for fishing, to maximize my fishing power at the press of a button. The rest of the day was pretty chill. I found 2 more life fruits and got myself another wall of flesh treasure bag. This was because I realized I was still using the melee emblem while being a ranger, so there's a pretty clear issue there. On day 59, whilst farming in the jungle, I got myself the Uzi, a 1% drop chance from exclusively trappers. Now at this point in the game, it wasn't really a viable weapon, but don't worry, it had a better use. Now that I had a gun, the arms dealer could move in. Once he'd arrived, I purchased the ammo box from him, granting me a 20% chance to save ammo from now on. Him being around also opened up the door to use guns later down the line, as the empty bullets he sells would be invaluable for crafting bullets later on. I took this day to start preparing potions and various buffs to help during the Plantera fight as well, because quite frankly, I was pretty nervous about this fight. To get some better healing potions, I also fought a couple of corrupt mimics, seeing as they drop greater healing potions and upgrade to regular healing potions. Not knowing how long it would take for another Plantera bulb to spawn, and feeling decently confident with the buffs I had, on day 60, I took my chances and decided to spawn in Plantera. The worry I had about the fight melted away immediately, as Plantera receives a pretty notable debuff in Skyblock. That being, she has much less to grapple onto, and hardly anything to bounce her thorn balls off of. Why are we doing turtles, bro? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay. Plantera was defeated swiftly, with her dropping hundreds of lizard blocks and other temple building materials as a Skyblock exclusive. Her passing would also mean upgraded dungeon drops, and to round out the day, I bought and planted some pumpkin seeds from the dryad, so that when they grew, I could craft the pumpkin moon medallion as soon as possible. Once day 61 rolled around, I had my first hard mode goblin invasion. Unfortunately though, it didn't really yield much in terms of useful gear, so there isn't much to say about it. The cyborg moved in today, but more importantly, I went down to farm for some items in the post-Plantera dungeon, namely the rocket launcher, rifle scope, and way too much ectoplasm. The first half of day 62 was still spent grinding in the dungeon, but afterwards I finally returned to my base. I sold a bunch of stuff for a good chunk of money, after which I made a pumpkin medallion and summoned the pumpkin moon. I managed to get really lucky and have a witch's broom drop from one of the first morning woods that I killed, giving me infinite flight. The rest of the pumpkin moon was pretty textbook though. Moving on. Day 63 began with going down to the jungle and gathering more life fruits. After harvesting the fruit, I headed further down into the darkness and started building a very shabby looking jungle temple. To get lizard power cells for the altar, I had to farm lizards that spawned on the temple brick with a 2% drop chance. After eventually getting one, I summoned and completely steamrolled Golem. His fight was incredibly trivial in Skyblock as there are no temple walls to bounce his fireballs off. I also refought Plantera in hopes of getting the Venus Magnum, but to no avail. After paying a quick visit to the newly spawned cultists on day 64, I headed back down to the dungeon to try farming for a second rifle scope, which I still didn't get. I decided to take out my frustration on Plantera, who again didn't give me the Venus Magnum I wanted, but she did give me the Pygmy Staff, which is a pretty strong summon, so I forgive her. Then I took on the Solar Eclipse, which I got nothing good from. I also did the Frost Moon for the first time that night, and it was brutal. I got completely destroyed with no good drops either. I summoned a second Solar Eclipse on day 65, eventually getting the 2 items that I wanted, Neptune's Shell and the Moonstone. I think I sacrificed a bit of my soul for these, seeing as it dropped right after I died. Bless up, we got the Moonstone. Since I got what I wanted though, I used the enchanted sundial to skip the rest of the day. On day 66, after trading lives with Golem, I was rewarded with a possessed hatchet. It just reminded me of how much I miss playing melee, but I wanted to commit to ranger, so I went back to the dungeon and finally got my second sniper scope. I reforged my sniper rifle and loaded up on some high velocity bullets to have some variety in my arsenal. I also tried the Frost Moon again and got cooked again. At least I got the Elf Melter this time, a powerful flamethrower. Day 67 was the day that I decided to take on the final tier headgear of the Old One's army. This would mean I could finally get an upgrade to my armor. You know, with no chlorophyte and everything. After setting up some hoiks to freeze the enemies in place and a few attempts at the event anyway to stock up on defender medals, I was able to make it to the final wave. While I didn't win on this attempt, the medals it dropped allowed me to get the strongest version of the Ballista summon, the Ballista Staff. The dusk of day 68 had Betsy fall to the wrath of my Elf Melter, alongside my army of ballistas. I decided to get 2 pieces of the Red Riding set from the Tavern Keep with my defender medals, and as headgear downgraded to the Adamantite Mask in order to maximize my range damage. My next goal was to track down a Martian probe in order to start the Martian Madness event, which I found almost immediately. Day 69 was the fight against the Martians, in which I managed to take down 2 of the UFOs. Sadly though, I didn't get anything I wanted. After not being able to find another probe, I went back to grinding Golem loot and found my first Eye of Golem. I needed this to craft into a Destroyer emblem and then into the Recon Scope. Day 70 began by crafting and reforging said Recon Scope, which further boosted our damage output. I then went back to grinding Golem in order to get another eye for a second rifle scope, but didn't end up getting it once. Seriously. This day was very boring. Attempts for the Eye of Golem continued into day 71, where I finally got it after an agonizing total time of 40 minutes. Okay. I then took out the Wall of Flesh for a spare emblem, which I crafted through to the second sniper scope, which at last left me with a great set of accessories. Then I went to the ocean to find another probe and start up a second Martian invasion. After fighting off Martians all day, I got the Xenopopper from a lucky UFO drop. I've never used it before, but it was really strong. On day 72, I decided to try out my newly reforged Xenopopper against a lunatic cultist, and it absolutely obliterated the poor guy. After turning the cultist into Swiss cheese, I spent the day bridging to the Vortex Pillar, which was in the middle of nowhere compared to where the other pillars were. Once I reached it, my Xenopopper made quick work of the enemies, eventually taking down the pillar's shield. On day 73, I used the Vortex fragments from the pillar to craft the Vortex Beater, the strongest weapon of the playthrough by a mile. I took it on a test run against Plantera and effectively turned her into yard trimmings. Plantera also dropped the new whip, the Vulgar Display of Flower, but I'm not playing Summoner. My next target was the Stardust Pillar, which I took down really quickly with my shiny new rifle. With the fragments it dropped, I opted for the Stardust Dragon Staff, which made me even more overpowered. My storage area was entirely full at this point, so I made a new chest. Whoa, it's a UFO, that's so cool. Look, it's like bouncing. I like that, I like that. Took out the Nebula Pillar and ended the day with a fishing quest that gave me this cool looking fish hook. Day 74, I'm back on the fishing grind for ice skates again. And then it happened. My first Boreal crate, then another. Then another Boreal crate. They just kept rolling in until I ended up with 6 of them. The ice skates are a 1 in 7 drop chance from these crates, which gave me pretty solid odds. However, my recent luck with boss drops and other loot had been abysmal, so I was literally praying for this. Second one. Ice Blade, third one. Ice Brew Ring, fourth one. Snowball Cannon, fifth one. Blizzard in a bottle, no. We didn't hit it. I had to go back. And so I kept on fishing until I had over a dozen of them. But even then, I kept fishing. I needed to guarantee those ice skates. Then eventually, while opening them, oh my god. My long journey to obtaining the Terra Sparks had finally come to an end. Hundreds of casts and countless fishing potions later. It felt like I'd sacrificed a bit of my sanity to reach this point, but it was worth it in the end. Hopefully, I never have to fish for biome crates ever again. However, even with Terra Spark boots secured, I still thought it was much too early to take on the Moonlord, so I needed a new objective. So I decided that obtaining the cell phone and Ankh shield would be my next goal. Day 75 began with a gold fishing rod. I didn't know this existed, but it's guaranteed for your 30th fishing quest. It's the best rod in the entire game, so it was definitely great to get, considering I'd need to fish for the Cobalt shield very, very soon. I also made the REK 3000 to work towards the cell phone, then spent the night opening the various crates I'd been building up over the last few weeks. These dropped 3 enchanted sundials all up, meaning I'd ended up with 5 of them in this one world somehow. I also shimmered my slime gun into a shimmer gun and went around splashing all of my NPCs with it. Honestly, most of these new portraits look great. Most of them. Let me know what you guys think. On day 76, I realized I'd forgotten to fight the Queen Bee, so I summoned and fought her. Now that she was down, the Witch Doctor could finally move in. I made the best and most important item in the game, the Terra Toilet. Afterwards, the traveling merchant had a little accident involving my flawless lava trap, and I shimmered the hat he dropped into the peddler's satchel. This item would give me a higher chance of getting the stopwatch later on, with its ability to permanently expand his shop. I also got jump scared by accidentally summoning the Torch God. That's what I've been. Oh my god, I did the. Oh, he dead ass. But with my awesome dodging skills, I emerged practically unscathed and finished building up the structure. And wait, check that out. I also did a bit of decorating in the meantime. If only you liked the video and subscribed, then would know what I was trying to communicate. Day 77 was not very eventful. Heralding the beginning of my return to the Old One's army in hopes of getting Betsy wings, I spent the entire day grinding. After all of that though, I didn't end up getting them. Day 78 began the same way Day 77 did. I was grinding for those silly little wings. After almost a whole day being spent grinding, on today's 5th attempt of the Old One's army, I finally got my hands on Betsy's wings. Although I'd be getting a better pair from Duke Fishron pretty soon, they were an upgrade to what I had at the time, so they were worth it. Noticing the feng shui at the base was lacking, I set up some item frames and put some of my rarest possessions on display to flaunt my wealth. Then, I equipped the Clothier voodoo doll and killed the Clothier in cold blood. Whenever he dies, there's a 10% chance that he'll drop Chippy's couch, an item referencing Chippy Gaming's second channel. Since it was added, this item was always a decoration, but at 1.4.5, it was given a hidden use. That use being to summon a secret boss. However, today, the Clothier didn't drop it. To wrap up the day, I fished for a Joja Cola, which I got right away. Where was this luck when I was fishing for ice skates? Also, I didn't realize I was playing Stardew Valley. I handed the collar to the Dryad, who purified it, opening up a portal to another world. She then gave me the Star Drop item for my trouble. When equipped, it gives you a pet Junimo from Stardew Valley. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite collab Terraria's done. On day 79, I finally found the last of the life fruit that I needed to max out my HP. I also shimmered a bonus fruit to turn it into an Aegis fruit for a permanent boost to my defense. At this point, I wanted some extra Steam achievements because I don't play vanilla all too often. So I planted 100 acorns for a new achievement that came with 1.4.5. The traveling merchant visited today, so I checked for a stopwatch, but to no avail. I also had to recreate my underground tundra for some flinxes. I needed flinx fur to make a deer thing, the summoning item for Deerclops, which I summoned and promptly shredded. Yet another free achievement for moi. I fished for crates in the dungeon during day 80, specifically called stockade crates. I didn't catch any for most of the day until 3 PM when I finally caught one. Yep, I love biome crates, they're not rare at all. My line also broke on a second golden carp, which again has a 0.67% odds to even be able to be caught. But I caught a third almost immediately after. I got an alchemy table and then another crate. Opening these crates gave me some lockboxes, which after I used golden keys on, had magic missiles inside. Both of them. I also got a ram rune, a new accessory from the Dead Cells crossover. I kept fishing into day 81, catching another golden carp and another stockade crate, which yielded nothing useful. I did get several new paintings though, including the infamous one of the Dryad. Yes we, are gooning to this. More and more stockade crates came up, but all of them had useless stuff in them, until out of nowhere, I got the Cobalt Shield immediately and crafted it into the Young Shield, which marked another complex recipe completed. To make the Moonlord fight a bit easier, I started extending this giant platform to the right of the world. I bridged all the way to the edge of the world, which was pretty tough. Seeing every corner of this empty map was definitely an experience. On day 82, I got an extractinator by opening some wooden crates I shimmered from pearlwood crates. This was a great find, since it meant that if I got a bunch of obsidian, I could turn it into sand and potentially make a desert biome. So I went and mined a bunch of obsidian out of the shimmer and shoved that into the extractinator. I also shimmered a ton of potions I had lying around, which altogether got me 300 sand to make a desert, which worked. Kind of. I was getting enemy spawns, sure, but not antlions, so I wasn't getting any more sand. Anyway, it was a full moon that night, so I killed some werewolves, eventually getting my hands on a moon charm with a 1.67% drop rate, which was the last piece I needed to make a celestial shell. Day 83 opened with me killing a pixie and getting enchanted pixie dust. This might have been the coolest item so far, because it's one of the new transformation items added in 1.4.5. I loved this item, it felt amazing to use. Now that I had time to breathe, I wanted to take down Duke Fishron, so I had the idea to use the Clintaminator to convert my jungle into a glowing mushroom biome. You know, for truffle worms. After turning the biome blue, I found a truffle worm that spawned almost immediately. I went over to the ocean to bring up the Duke and naturally cooked him. He didn't drop anything crazy, but that's another boss down regardless. Early into day 84, the traveling merchant swung by and finally brought a stopwatch with him. I was one step closer to the cell phone with only the sextant remaining. Then I realized I hadn't fought the Empress of Light yet, so I extended my hollowed biome a lot in order to get some prismatic lacewings to spawn. Sure enough, I found one after some time and died to the Empress. Low-key kinda embarrassing. To unwind on day 85, I spent the day building myself a house. I might not be the most talented builder in Terraria, but considering the limited materials granted in Skyblock, I have to say this turned out pretty incredible. Day 86 was rather lackluster. Highlights of today were finding some balloon slimes, one of the many new slime variants added in the update that I hadn't encountered yet. With nothing better to do than wait, I made a desert fishing area to pass the time. I also found my first rainbow slime of the playthrough, a slime variant that spawns in the hollowed biome while it's raining. That night, however, marked my rematch with the Empress. So I took her on again and won after a close battle. Now my next goal would be to take her down during the day, because after all, that's the true test of skill in vanilla Terraria. On day 87, I finally decided to build a house for the Truffle, who had periodically been reminding me in the chat that he needed a place to stay. Thanks to this decision, the zoologist finally returned. My wife was finally home after being missing for weeks. I bought pet licenses off her for the town cat, dog, and bunny, so hopefully the town would be a little more lively. Then I took most of the day out to prepare a ton of buffs, so as to further boost my chances at defeating the Moonlord on my first attempt. I also took another attempt at getting Chippy's couch to drop, to no avail. I farmed the heck out of Duke Fishron on day 88 in order to get a wing upgrade. After 4 consecutive tsunami drops, I finally managed to get a pair of Fishron wings. But other than that, not much happened today. I might be running out of things to do. Day 89 was really uneventful. After doing my fishing quest and getting a new town slime, I skipped ahead to the next day. Heading into the final 10 days of the challenge now on day 90 had me starting to lose it. Kind of. I started building a giant rail track going eastward, hoping to reach the world's border. That was it. No, seriously, that was all I did today. Boredom makes you do stupid stuff. On day 91, I finished the rail track, reaching the world border at last. But spirits were still very high. To pass the time, I ran a little competition with my stream chat for them to guess which character I was building via pixel art. Who is this? You'll see, bro. I'm starting from bottom to top. That's another hint. Oh, you clocked that it's big feet. Wait. You clocked that these are feet? You are right. You're on the right track. They are feet. It's so obvious now, bro. Come on. Yes, it's Mammoth. Yes, it's Mammoth. Shout out to Sir Goonsquire for correctly guessing Mammoth from My Singing Monsters. Day 92. Oh yeah, I should be mentioning, I was still doing daily fishing quests, as well as taking out the Clothier daily for a chance at Chippy's couch, but both of which weren't yielding anything of interest. For some reason, sleeping in my bed didn't accelerate time, so instead, I spent most of day 92 fishing in the desert in hopes of getting a magic conch from an oasis crate. While I didn't fish up the conch, I got a bass statue instead. It's honestly crazy how I hadn't thought to get this item up until now. Day 93. Today was the day I decided I was close enough to the end to fight the Moonlord. On realizing no enemies were spawning at the solar pillar, using my big brain, I deducted they needed solid ground to stand on. I bought an ice rod from the wizard and used it to place down a block, then built a dirt platform on it so hopefully enemies could spawn. I took down the 100 required enemies for the pillar's shield to drop in no time at all, and on the pillar's destruction began a 60-second timer before the Moonlord was summoned. I consumed all of my buffs and steeled myself for hopefully a one-off confrontation with the final boss. Oh. Oh, okay. You know what? That's a good first attempt. Okay, take 2. It was time for my second attempt. With some knowledge under my belt and the pressure rising by the second, I refought the Moonlord. Easy dodges. Heads down, claws open. We're dodging the beams pretty well. Oh, yo, ow. Okay. That's scary. Buddy's low. This might be it. Maybe? Please? Second try? Wait, hey! Come back, Moonlord, please. There we go. That wasn't hard. We just cooked Moonlord. I'm too nonchalant, bro. Holy. In a close battle, I had reigned victorious against Terraria's final boss. There was still one challenge waiting for me, however, which I'd be saving for day 99. Now onto day 94, I realized I only got 20 Luminite bars from his treasure bag. I refought Moonlord right away so as to not waste the buffs I had, the only gear upgrade being the Celestial Starboard, a replacement to my wings. Why, Relogic? Why do you give me only 20 bars? Anyway, after the fight, I realized I also had a deficit of vortex fragments, and therefore was only able to craft 1 piece of vortex armor. It was time to take down the pillars. Again, this would be comically easy though, as I got the strongest gun in the game, the SDMG, from the second treasure bag I got from the Moonlord. I reforged it to Unreal and crafted a bunch of Luminite bullets, a stark upgrade to their crystal counterpart. By the time the third pillar was down, I was able to craft the full set of Vortex armor, meaning the Moonlord would be a piece of cake going forward. I also remembered to kill the Clothier, and Lord behold, it dropped Chippy's couch. But before I show off the new secret boss, I killed the Moonlord again. But this time he dropped a Meowmere minecart. I didn't even know this thing existed, but all I have to say is meow 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 meow. On day 95, I did my daily fishing quest and got nothing good. With too much excitement to fight the secret boss, I slept through the entire day until 7:30 that evening. Now it was time to put the Chippy's couch into play by placing it down next to the Clothier and sitting in it. I'll just show you what happened next. Oh my god, whoa, 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 bro. Dude, I didn't even do anything. Why are you Chippy gaming? Wait, what is he saying in the chat? Please do consider clicking that subscribe button. Wait, true. Yeah, he's summoning little Chippy acolytes. Do you do anything else, Chippy Gaming? You're just a stronger version of Skeletron. Dude, he says his outro when he dies. The Chippy boss was unexpected and hilarious, but it's also worth mentioning its drops. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I got a full set of Chippy Gaming armor alongside an inactive Chippy's cloak. After I combined the inactive cloak with Souls of Flight and hollowed bars, it turned into its active counterpart, a genuinely good pair of wings. Afterward, I went fishing in the desert for the magic conch one final time. Rather quickly, I was rewarded for my determination with it dropping from a mirage crate. The only issue is when I used it, it did nothing. Like nothing at all. I do have an ocean biome. The angler recognizes it. Mob spawn. I could even summon Duke Fishron. Why was this not working? Oh well, at least I can say I got the conch in the first place. Most of day 96 was spent talking to my stream chat about how ridiculous yesterday's events were, so there isn't too much to add. I got rewarded with a unique trophy from the fishing quest and spent the night hunting for a prismatic lacewing for Daytime Empress, which I ended up finding. On day 97, a mystic frog spawned for the first time, and after a very scuffed and drawn out attempt to buy purification powder while it doesn't despawn, I purified it and got a new town slime. I then spent the night farming for lacewings again, bringing my total to 5. On day 98, the angler requested a honeyfish, which I'd never seen before. So I spent every hour of daylight painstakingly making a honey pond. This was much slower than a water pond, as the duplication glitch is much more precise and drawn out. By the time I'd fished up the little bugger, it was already time to farm lacewings again. After a very prosperous night, the total I'd collected reached 17 by morning. On day 99, it was time to start attempting the Daytime Empress of Light. If you didn't already know, her difficulty is so extreme due to the fact that any of her projectiles will instantly kill you during the day. So it had to be a flawless fight. Going off my friend and fellow YouTuber GitGood's advice, I swapped my armor from Vortex to Hollowed for the dodge on hit it allows you, equipped myself with Master Ninja gear which affords a chance at a dodge, and reforged every accessory I had to Menacing or Lucky now that defense was useless. I also got the Hotline fishing hook from the angler today, which unfortunately this late in the run has no purpose. I would have loved to lava fish, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. Without further ado though, here are my attempts on the Daytime Empress of Light. Oh, right on the end of it? What? Oh, bro, dude. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, after 11 attempts, I had only got her down to 12,000 HP at my best. I went back to farming lacewings that night, with my true final count being 15, as it was the night of day 99. But while farming, it started raining, which meant the mount that I got from Duke Fishron, the Shrimpy Truffle, would be overpowered. The Shrimpy Truffle is a decent mount, but it truly shines when it's either submerged in water or during rain. You see, its speed is doubled and then some when liquids are involved, as well as the player gaining a flat 15% extra damage buff. I couldn't have possibly seen this coming, but now I had an enormous advantage over the Empress, who otherwise was dog-walking me. Also that night, I learned that you can't dodge the Empress no matter what, which naturally meant the gear I switched to was useless. So I went back to what I was using before. As the morning sky lit up with golden rays of sunshine between clouds, rain, and fog, I stood alone. Day 100. I forgot to buff. Oh my god. Yo, wait, what? I didn't get hit. Why didn't I get hit? Do I win? Yo, I won. Wait, what happened there? Yo, I won. Ooh, that's the Woot 7 difference. Daytime Empress. With my final challenge absolutely obliterated, there did remain one side quest I hadn't been talking about for some time, that being the cell phone. Throughout this playthrough, I've been keeping an eye out for every component of this thing, with the only accessory left being the sextant. This is exclusively obtainable through fishing quests, with no milestone attached to it, just RNG. So it was time for my very last fishing quest. Final quest fish. High test fishing line. I'd collected everything I had my heart set on, but the stupid angler wanted to get in the way of that. What a monster, dude. Anyway, the traveling merchant came through today and rewarded me with the most expensive item in the game to buy, the companion cube. I of course purchased it, and all things considered, it wasn't a bad runner-up prize after losing out on the sextant. I looked around the world one final time, knowing this was the end, knowing that the whole journey was leading up to this, but I still had one more thing to do. Oh, angler. Oh, I feel bad for the tavern keep and the fucking... Whatever, bro. Anyways. Oh, come on, quickly. Yes. Die, angler. He's already dead. He's already dead. He's already gone. He couldn't take the heat. And the two other NPCs lived too. The angler is rotting in hell forever now. He did not give me that sextant. I'm never letting him respawn. He's gone. He's dead. He's canonically dead in this world, bro. Goodbye, angler. And that was it. If you'd like to see more Terraria content or help me on the way to 50,000 subscribers, then leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.